Yeah, hi there. These comments, I'm going to just use your initials, JTV, and I am Michael, the founder, owner, and the materials writer for all of your lessons at the 7-step system to pass the TOEFL IBT. And you are completing my pronunciation lessons number 14 and 15. And I'm going to download your first voice recording exercise.
Number 1. Half of the thieves have turned off the faucet that leads to the...
Okay, let me go ahead and find this one here. Find this. Got it. Here we go right here. Okay, let's go back to the beginning.
Number 1. Half of the thieves have turned off the faucet that leads to the fine wine.
Okay. Now remember, with your intonation, you can't just keep the same tone the whole time. You got to work on varying that intonation, right? We'll practice these sentences in just a minute. Now you are pronouncing pretty much all the sounds correctly. So it looks like you're focusing on the F and the V. So I'm going to listen very carefully to those two consonant sounds.
2. The vines and fans...
No, it's vines. The vines and fans were left in the van. So with the V, to make it short, doesn't sound like a B. You got to put more vibration there. The vines.
left in the van and will be banned from further use.
Yes. Again, you're not there yet with this one. This is causing you trouble, especially the V consonant.
3.
And not 3, but 3. So 3. The tongue's between the teeth, right? 3.
A few very large ferries are believed to have transported berries and leaves to be used as compost.
Okay.
4. Due to his failure to save his friend from
To save. Make that longer. To save his friend from
a lifetime of illness, Fred finally figured to let the doctors operate, but to no avail.
Okay. Close.
5. It is safe to say veal and wafer.
Pretty good. Veal. I think you're making some progress on this sound. So, veal. You pronounce that fairly clearly.
Until one decides to give a waiver to those who feel like they do not want to eat it.
Not bad. Now, I'm going to have you practice this one more time with me. Okay, you ready? Let's go to number 1. Half of the thieves have turned off the faucet that leads to the fine wine. 2. The vines and fans were left in the van and will be banned from further use. 3. A few very large ferries are believed to have transported berries and leaves to be used as compost. 4. Due to his failure to save his friend from a lifetime of illness, Fred finally figured to let the doctors operate, but to no avail. Number 5. It is safe to save veal and wafers until one decides to give a waiver to those who feel like they do not want to eat it. Alright, so you practice that a little bit, and let's go down to the next one. So you're reading now a paragraph. Okay, here we go.
Number 1. Half of the thieves have turned off the faucet.
Oh, wait a minute.
That
I need to download the other one, sorry. Okay, here we go. So I'm downloading your next voice recording. And here we go.
What is interesting is that researchers have continued Pavlov's experiments with classical conditioning using other subjects such as people.
Now remember, here's part of where I think I can help you here. With your intonation, you have to remember that when you're reading or speaking and let's say you're presenting a sermon at church and you want the audience to kind of understand everything you're saying without being distracted, you have to make sure with each thought group the tone is a little bit high at the end of that thought group until you get to the last thought group, and then your tone drops. So then in that first sentence I might say, what is interesting is that researchers have continued Pavlov's experiments with classical conditioning using other subjects such as people. So once I get to the end, that's when my tone drops. But you're not really doing that. You're keeping more of the same tone throughout the whole idea.
Discovered humans are conditioned to very similar methods.
Say the word very, very similar methods.
For example, after a sound was continually combined.
Continually. Pronounce that T with a little more aspiration there. Continually combined.
With eating potato chips, college students came to
potato chips. Put more air on the P. Potato chips.
Salivate in reaction to the sound.
Salivate. You want to say salivate in reaction.
Researchers have led.
It's not researchers, but researchers. Researchers have learned
that many different organisms can be conditioned to respond to practically any stimuli, such as lights, sounds, or tastes.
Okay, so let's work on this one together one more time. Okay, let's go to the beginning. What is interesting is that researchers have continued Pavlov's experiments with classical conditioning using other subjects such as people. They discovered humans are conditioned to very similar methods. For example, after a sound was continually combined with eating potato chips, college students came to salivate in reaction to the sound alone. Researchers have learned that many different organisms can be conditioned to respond to practically any stimuli, such as lights, sounds, or tastes. Now notice, you see when I got to those lights, sounds, or tastes, if you have A, B, or C, those are all different thought groups. The tone rises on A, B, and then it drops when you get to the last item there. It's that kind of variation in your intonation that is going to help you sound more like a native speaker. Now, if you want, actually don't worry about that yet. We might get to some lessons on intonation at some point, but you better stay focused on the basics right now. Alright, so you did this voice recording. I'm not entirely convinced that you have mastered all the V consonant sound. This is the one that I'm still a little bit worried about. I know you can pronounce the F, you can pronounce the B consonants. The V though, I'm not quite sure about yet. So I want you to do one more exercise in this lesson. Go to the very beginning of the lesson where it says contrasting the consonants F and V, listen to and repeat the pairs of words you hear. I want you to read these words. There's 10 of them. It starts off with off of. So I want you to read those pairs of words, record that, and send it back to me again so I can monitor your pronunciation, and especially your pronunciation of the V consonant sound. That's the one I want you to practice a little bit more. Alright? Okay, now let's go to your lesson number 15. So we just did 14, and now let's take a look at the next one. I'm downloading your voice recording exercise right now. Okay.
In particular, the advantage of rehab on a horse's retina is...
Okay, now let me find where this is. Let me go into my course for just a minute. I just got a key word from what you said. You said retina, right? R-E-T-I-N-A. Got it. Here we go. So let's take a look at this one.
Number 1. In particular, the advantage of rehab on a horse's retina is that the horse remotely has the chance of obtaining full eyesight after being blinded by lightning.
Yes, not bad. Very good on the pausing. Your tone's still not good, but your pausing is actually pretty good there. You're grouping certain ideas together. Just remember, At the end of that first thought group, the tone is going to rise a little bit. So you'll say, in particular, the advantage of rehabbing a horse's retina is that the horse remotely has a chance of obtaining full eyesight after being blinded by lightning.
2. The health in Morley's hand was lost because his company was not able to provide him a lucrative healthcare policy to cover the surgery.
Yeah, a couple words here. Not Motley, and it's not policy, but it's motley, and then policy. So you had some trouble with those vowel sounds in there. Okay, let's go to the next one.
3.
Not three, but three. Three. TH and then R. Three.
Consequently, the High
No, consequently. You put more stress, consequently on that first syllable there.
Cost of electricity was...
Remember, keep a journal. Sometimes you'll say a word, I might correct you and give you an idea of how to say it. Write that word down in your pronunciation and speaking journal. And then you can practice it later on, right? Consequently.
So huge that investors in the company was entirely caught off guard.
Was entirely. You need to pronounce the T there. Entirely caught off guard.
4. Bringing happiness to all who read that the California condor would no longer be brought to extinction. The footnotes on the bottom of the page were perhaps the most fruitful part of the research paper.
Good, but the most fruitful part of the research paper, need to pronounce the P with more air.
5. Intellectuals, however, shop at Gottschalk's department store.
I think overall, the H, the glottal stop, you're okay with. The T consonant, it depends on how you're using it. When you're using it as a flap, I think you're okay with it for the most part. Let me just take a look at something. Let me look at the beginning here so we can see some of them. Yeah, the one that's still a little bit difficult is that T. But don't worry about re-going over the lesson. I got some other things I'll have you do in a minute. So let's take a look at these sentences one more time. And the good thing is, here's what you want to do now. You understand how to pause. You have a good concept of your pausing. The next step is, once you understand where to pause, then you have to know what kind of intonation you need to use. Again, I'll tell you again. At the end of each thought group, the tone is a little bit higher at the end until you get to the last thought group. So keep that in mind. Number 1. In particular, the advantage of rehab in a horse's retina is that the horse remotely has a chance of obtaining full eyesight after being blinded by lightning. 2. The health in Motley's hand was lost because his company was not able to provide him a lucrative health care policy to cover the surgery. 3. Consequently, the high cost of the electricity was so huge that the investors in the company were entirely caught off guard. 4. Bringing happiness to all who read that the California condor would no longer be brought to extinction, the footnotes on the bottom of the page were perhaps the most fruitful part of the research paper. Number 5. Intellectuals, however, shop at Gottschalk's department store. Okay, now we go to your final voice recording for the paragraph. So let's take a look at this one.
Martin Luther King Jr. synthesized ideas drawn from many different cultural traditions.
Okay.
Born in Atlanta, known for Stone Mountain Park on January 15, 1929.
January 15th or January 15.
King whose roots were in the African American Baptist Church. He was the grandson of the Reverend Eddie Williams, pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church and a founder of Atlanta's National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP chapter, and the son of Martin Luther King Sr., who succeeded Williams as Ebenezer's pastor and also became a heavily engaged civil rights leader.
Let's say civil rights leader, a heavily engaged civil rights leader. The word there, be careful, the word pastor, you have to pronounce with a little more air with the P, pastor. All right, let's read this one together. You ready? Martin Luther King Jr. synthesized ideas drawn from many different cultural traditions. Born in Atlanta, known for Stone Mountain Park, on January 15, 1929, King's roots were in the African American Baptist Church. He was the grandson of the Reverend A.D. Williams, pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, and a founder of Atlanta's National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP chapter, and the son of Martin Luther King Sr., who succeeded Williams as Ebenezer's pastor and who also became a heavily engaged civil rights leader. Okay, I think we're okay here. So lesson 15 is okay, move on. Now, I did tell you with lesson 14, I want you to send me back one more voice recording there, especially focusing on the V consonant sound, right? Now, you can also send me some voice recordings from the next lesson that you're practicing, and I'll be more than happy to listen to that. And keep up the good work. You're doing a great job. You're very motivated. You contact me throughout the week. You're very serious. And the harder you work, the harder I work. Together, I can help, and you will be able to reduce your accent. Remember that it is a process. It takes time. It takes effort. And I know that you're religious. So say a prayer in your heart, and also a prayer for me that together we can make progress with your pronunciation. Think about it. Do you believe in the gift of tongues? The answer is yes, right? We know the gift of tongues can happen, and we've heard of it happening in the scriptures, and you've probably heard of it happening in different areas of the world where people get the gift of tongues, and I think it can happen to you. You can definitely improve your pronunciation. It will happen. You got to believe it, all right? The point here is to not give up. I'm not going to give up. You're not going to give up. Together, we're going to fight this thing and help you speak more clearly. This can happen. All right, thank you.